Hello and good morning, wonderful people of the world. That was as far as I got when I originally sat down to write this episode. Yesterday I popped into the coffee shop, got a table, and immediately had an allergy attack. I had to leave before I started sneezing and didn't do anything the rest of the day, so I left it at one sentence. It's my fault for running out of meds, but I thought I could survive a couple of days without it. Turns out I was wrong. Also, just a few days ago, I found out that one of my old college friends lives in Seattle. I had no idea, so that was quite a nice surprise. It'll be wonderful to catch up with her. Oh, and just an hour or so ago, I accepted a job finally. It's been stressing me out a little bit, but I'm super excited about working at this place, so here's to that. Okay. According to The Bild, a German publication, quote, notorious for its mix of gossip, inflammatory language, and sensationalism, the subject of our story today is described as the greatest lust killer in German history. Yet, I can't find more than a single Wikipedia page dedicated to him. I do trust Wikipedia, however, I prefer to double check my sources, but today we're just gonna go with it, yeah? I did find one other German policy website referencing him, but it was behind a paywall, so forgive me for the length of this episode. There is truly not a whole lot written about him. This is the story of German serial killer Franz Josef Ludy. My name is Eli, and this is Murder in the Morning. My sources for today come from Wikipedia, and the bonus story at the end is a BBC article. Franz Josef Ludy was born in 1933 to a family of 8 sisters in the northern German city of Hamburg. His history begins at age 15 when Franz attempted to jump onto a moving train, receiving only a head injury in return. The infamous head injury. From that moment on, it was all downhill. Immediately, Franz began his life of crime. As a teen, he was into petty theft and robberies, losing any job he did acquire due to such behavior. During these years, he did end up having one relationship with a woman that was, quote, called off by his mother, end quote. And although there isn't any information saying this, to me that indicates a bit of family trouble. Or at least a mother-son complex of sorts. Subsequently, he never had a healthy or legal relationship again. According to Wikipedia, he left the family home in the following years and traveled around southern East Germany, Switzerland, and Belgium, living partially under a false name. During this time, while in a train station toilet back in Hamburg, he attempted suicide by overdosing on sleeping pills. One such town he grew familiar with in his travels was Rottweil. It's spelled Rottweil, and it is named for the breed of dogs, Rottweilers, or probably Rottweilers. If you happen to hear the last episode, I talked about the Black Forest in Germany, and it just so happens that this town lies there too. Snuggled between the infamous Black Forest, home of the once largest cuckoo clock in the entire world, and the Swabian Alps, this charming town has remained nearly unchanged in the last 600 years. In 1952, at the mere age of 19, he took his first life. It was that of a young boy only 12 years old. Franz murdered this boy with a pitchfork. Somehow, at 19, Franz was charged as an adolescent and only received 8 years for the murder. The next few years he spent behind bars did little to no good, as right after his release, he was accused of attempting, quote, numerous sex crimes and murders aimed at children. Yet, somehow Franz remained a free man, alone and on the run to commit any horrible acts he pleased. and he did please. Quote, in 1956, he hit a 13-year-old boy on the head with a hard object, and although the victim's brains protruded due to the blow, the child survived with lasting damage. He was not arrested for this crime. On September 18th of 1961, he shot at a 7-year-old boy that he'd abducted in Rottweil, choked him, and then pushed him out of a moving car. The child survived. To have enough rage to attack innocent people is one thing, but then to take this rage out on unsuspecting young children is a whole another level of sociopathic. And only 10 days later, after he pushed that kid out of his car, Franz killed again. I don't think he planned on killing this couple, as it didn't fit his MO of young boys and sexual assault. But he did. Franz, while walking through the Schwetzinger State Forest, shot and killed a 57-year-old man and his 37-year-old girlfriend. Why? Completely unknown. It's unsure the extent of Franz's crimes, as many people didn't report sexual crimes back then, or even today, out of fear or shame or ridicule, which is simply unfair and tragic to hear. But we do know that, quote, Franz proceeded to perform many sexual offenses, abductions, and murder attempts. Among them, while in Hamburg in November of 1964, he molested a 9-year-old girl. The last victim of Franz Ludy was a 7-year-old boy whom he initially abducted and sexually abused before killing him on February 16th of 1968. End quote. Franz, at this point, 35 years old, has been getting away with these crimes for 16 years or more. Thankfully, at this last crime scene, he left plenty of evidence, and only 4 days after, Franz was apprehended. He quickly confessed to a slurry of crimes, including the above murders. He told investigators of the train incident when he was 15, when he failed to jump onto a moving train, and said, quote, since the accident, everything went wrong with me, end quote. Which is still no excuse, not at all, for that type of behavior. Like many others, he claimed he could only remember bits and pieces, blacking out sometimes during these attacks, which again is unoriginal and boring. It's just, he's trying to find any excuse. His defense lawyers went ahead with an insanity defense, and I'm sure we can guess how that ended. Franz Josef Ludy was convicted on 3 counts of murder, 3 cases of attempted murder, and 4 cases of child sexual abuse. According to the Wikipedia page, quote, the evidence gathered during the investigations disclosed that Franz Ludy had sought sexual contact with at least 100 boys, end quote. Sexual contact with 100 individual boys multiplied by who knows how many times. Franz was sentenced to life in prison, plus 3 additional 15-year sentences for, I believe, each of the murders. In the years following his conviction, he tried pleading with newspapers and tabloids to not call him a killer, even though he was one. They didn't listen. And unless his death has gone unreported in recent years, Franz Ludy is 91 years old and still alive and behind bars. And that, my friends, is the story of serial killer Franz Josef Ludy, Germany's, quote, most lustful murderer. Again, I apologize for how short that bad boy was. I truly told you everything I found in my own words, plus some geography stuff just for fun about that Rottweil town. That's just it, though. If you want more, worry not. Stick around after the music for your daily bonus story. Okie dokie. Toodles. Hello. We got one more. Yeah. This news from BBC is truly striking. Titled U.S. and British Citizens Among the 37 Sentenced to Death in DR Congo Coup Trial. Written by Wedali Chibalushi. And forgive me for my pronunciation. Quote, 37 people, including 3 Americans, a Briton, a Belgian, and a Canadian national, have been sentenced to death over an attempt to overthrow the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo. The men were accused of leading an attack on both the presidential palace and the home of an ally of President Felix Tshisekedi in May. Christian Malonga, a U.S. national of Congolese origin, the suspected leader of the plot, was killed during the attack along with 5 others. In total, 51 people were tried in a military court, with hearings broadcast on national TV and radio. Malonga's son, Marcel, one of the U.S. citizens sentenced to death, previously told the court that his father had threatened to kill him unless he took part. His friend, Tyler Thompson, was also given the death penalty. The pair, both in their 20s, had played football together in Utah. His stepmother, Miranda Thompson, in June told the BBC the family had, quote, zero idea how he ended up in the DR Congo. We were in complete shock as to what was happening and the unknown. Everything we were learning was what we were getting off of Google, she said. The third American, Benjamin Zalman Poland, had business interests with Christian Malonga. Also sentenced to death was Jean-Jacques Wandu, a dual Congolese and Belgian citizen. Human Rights Watch previously described him as a prominent researcher on regional politics and security and suggested the evidence connecting him to the coup attempt was thin. The AFP news agency reports that the Briton and Canadian national were of Congolese origin. The court heard the British national, Youssouf Ezangi, had helped recruit some of the others who took part. Of the 51 tried, 14 people were acquitted and freed, with the court finding they had no connection to the attack. Those convicted have 5 days to appeal against their sentences. Death sentences have not been carried out in the DR Congo for roughly 2 decades. Convicts who received the penalty serve life imprisonment instead. The government lifted this moratorium in March this year, citing the need to remove, quote, traitors from the nation's dysfunctional army. However, no death penalties have been carried out since. The attempted coup began in the capital, Kinshasa, in the early hours of May 19th. Armed men first attacked Parliamentary Speaker Vital Kamerhe's home in Kinshasa, then headed to the president's official residence. Witnesses say a group of about 20 assailants in army uniform attacked the palace and an exchange of gunfire followed. An army spokesperson later announced on national TV that security forces had, quote, stopped an attempted coup d'etat. Local media reports said that the assailants were members of the New Zaire movement, or Zaire movement, linked to Christian Malonga, an exiled DR Congolese politician. Malonga was shot dead in the attack after resisting arrest, said Army spokesperson Brig Gen Sylvain Akenji. President Felix was re-elected for a second term in disputed elections last year in December. He won about 78% of the vote. DR Congo is a country with vast mineral wealth and a huge population. Despite this, life is difficult for many people, with conflict, corruption, and poor governance persisting. Much of the country's natural resources lie in the east, where violence still rages, despite Mr. Felix's attempts to deal with the situation by imposing a state of siege, ceasefire deals, and bringing in troops from neighboring countries. End quote. Whew, that's beyond wild. Imagine going on a trip with your friend just to end up on death row. I mean, that is, if you didn't know, or I don't know the ins and outs, but what a world we live in. Whew. Welp, I think that'll about do it for me today. Thank you all so much for taking the time to listen in. Yeah. Enjoy your week, and I will see you in a few. Okie dokie. Bye-bye. Love you.